I asked my manager if we could get a laser cutter at work, and he said, no. But I thought to myself, this could probably pay itself off within a year. So I came up with a plan, learnt how to use it, and paid it off in just 3 months. A year later, I upgraded and paid that one off too. Because on this channel, we don't ask ourselves if we can, we ask ourselves how we can. Do you want to know how I did it? This is how. So where I work, it's very natural looking and there's a lot of things made of wood. It's also easy to get lost, it's very quirky, and there's lots of hidden paths. Now we got a new building and we put the entrance behind the exit and nobody knew where the entrance was. So on a day-to-day basis, I would get people coming up to me and asking me how to get into this building. And this is where I saw an opportunity to solve a problem for the company. If I could make a sign that clearly showed where the entrance is, it would save a lot of people a lot of time and make the customers happier. So I ordered the laser cutter and decided to get to work. I could give them the sign for free and then tell them if they wanted any more signs, but I would charge them for it. Now it might not be the most bulletproof business plan, but it was really simple. But just because it was simple doesn't mean it was going to be easy. Firstly, putting the laser cutter together was quite stressful. I didn't really know what I was doing, and at this point I also didn't know how to use it. Now it's an easy problem to solve, you just follow the instructions and you keep at it until you're finished. It's just a bit stressful, but these are going to happen when you try new things. Now another problem I encountered was I didn't take into account the amount of smoke this machine would make. I could not use this machine inside the house. So I had to run a 15-meter long USB cable into the garden and I did it out there. This was obviously a terrible and short-term solution, and it also meant I couldn't use the laser when it was raining. But it was something I had to do to get my foot in the door and to get started on this journey. And obviously part of the steep learning curve was to learn to use the software. I had to learn how to use Lightburn and I had to learn how to use Illustrator to make the designs. So after a few days I made the enter and exit sign. I went into work and I showed it to the general manager, who was really happy to have it. She let me install it, and from that point on, we've never had anybody ask where the entrance to the building was. I told her that if she wanted more signs, she could buy them off me. And that brought me to another issue, is the pricing of this work. You see, you spent £100 on a laser cutter, you're spending a lot of time on learning how to use the software, you're also using your creativity when you're designing the artwork, and this takes a lot of time. So I did find pricing it particularly difficult. In the end, I found a price that they were willing to pay and a price that I was willing to do it for. And that's the good thing about going down the route of only having one customer. See, I have tried selling things on Etsy before, but I found that I could get a lot of traffic that I pushed through to the Etsy website. They would look at my product and then they've got 20 other people all advertising around you. I would then find the people that I've brought in, could go off, look at other people's things, and then I've lost my customers that I've brought to the website. When you have one customer that you can deal with one-on-one, you can talk about things that work for both of you. For example, having this one customer, I knew delivery wasn't an issue because I could just run it there myself. It's a short distance and it would save a lot of money. And this is exactly why I think it's a good idea to build a relationship with 1 or 2 places and sell to one customer that can afford your work, rather than try to sell lots of little bits to everyone. So as you can tell, I did manage to sell a lot more laser cut items to the same company. Now the laser cutter I bought was called the xTool D1 and it cost around £700, so that would be how much I'd have to make to pay it off. I also had to pay another £50 for the Lightburn software and another £40 for the honeycomb grid that goes underneath the thing you're burning. But over the next 3 months, the manager came back to me with lots of different projects. I made some water station signs and an A3 stencil, which I charged £85 for. I made some small signs, I made some small cutlery signs, condiment signs, some bin signs, and I also made some larger media signs. 76 signs in total, come to £220. In October and November, I got asked for some Halloween signs. I charged £50 for these. And coming up to Christmas, I got asked to do 6 book signs, an emblem to cover the front of a book, and some bespoke letters for a Christmas treasure hunt. I charged £440 for all of that. In total, that was £875, which meant I'd hit my target and my mission was accomplished. Now I wasn't finished there because I was having a lot of fun and I found it to be a very useful tool for myself. Now I've obviously used this on a lot of personal projects as well, like this little beetle up here. This desk has got tons of laser cutting done to it, and it's been a very useful tool for me to have, so I continued creating as much as possible. Now later on, the company I worked for opened another site, and I got a lot more work in. In fact, I got more work than I could handle. I needed a bigger, faster laser cutter. So that's when I went for the xTool D1 Pro 40 watt with extensions, and this one also had an enclosure. And in total, this cost £2,000. My first order from the new site though was £600, which was already almost a third of the total paid off straight away. And by doing jobs like this, having a relationship with a customer, I managed to pay off the laser cutter within the year. As times went on, my designs got better, more intricate, and then I could then charge more for these designs, and the more niche and the more bespoke I became, the harder it was for them to go off and find someone else. Now, something I have found is for the simpler jobs, they've gone off and they've found somebody else that will do them cheaper. And that's fine, because I don't really enjoy those jobs so much. I enjoy the ones where I can put my own artistic flair in, design something and create something really special, and I can charge a bit more for that. So effectively, I'm just getting the work I want and then not doing the boring stuff, which is really great for me. And now I've paid off the lasers, I'm not too worried about how much work I get. So if you've looked at a laser and you can't afford it, hopefully now I've put you in a mind shift where you might be able to look at getting the laser to pay itself off. And if you do want to do that, here's a few tips. Now, the first tip I would give you is try to find 1 or 2 customers that will buy a lot of items off of you or buy one expensive item. So as I said, going on Etsy, trying to compete with everyone else is very difficult. If you go around to somebody, say a local pub or somebody that might want some coasters, you can do them a design, show them what you're capable of, and then you've got a chance of selling a few hundred of them to one person who can afford them. It's going to save you a lot of time doing 1 or 2 types of products, selling it to the same customer, not having to worry too much about delivery, rather than having to compete with thousands of people online, all from one store, and then you've got the individual packaging and sending off to do. So that would be my first tip. Now, the second point is try to solve a problem for a certain company. So for me, making the sign with the entrance and exit did actually solve quite a large problem. It doesn't really seem like it, but if you've got a kid and a pram and you're trying to find the entrance to a building, you spent 5 minutes walking around the other side, you can't find it, you've come back again, you've got upset children, they're hungry, they're whinging. Actually, just knowing exactly where you're going straight away has saved a lot of stress for that individual customer, and therefore it's a really good investment for the company. So the first tip was to find one customer that can buy a lot of things off you, and the second tip is to make sure you solve a problem for them so they've got a reason to buy from you. And those 2 tips alone will give you a really good head start. And my third tip is going to be start off small and then grow bigger. Before you go out and splash out on the most expensive laser cutter you could find, I would start off with a smaller laser cutter, and then if you've got a demand, then go up to your larger laser cutter and continue that way. I was reluctant to do this myself because obviously if you just go straight for the larger one, you've saved the money of the cheaper laser cutter, but it's more risky because you don't know you're definitely going to get the sales coming in. So that's the best tips I can basically give you. Find someone who can afford it, someone who needs it, and do it in a cost-effective manner. Apart from that, I feel it's really important just to keep making things, keep showing people what you've done, because you will have family members that come up to you and ask you for things. They will then pass it on to other people, and before you know it, you'll have a network of people coming to you, and you don't have to advertise anymore. So if you're going to give this a go, let me know the idea you've come up with, let me know how it's going, and I'd love to hear from you. Just remember, don't ask yourself if you can, ask yourself how you can.